Welcome to Daily English, your home for motivational stories, viral biographies, and English learning videos that inspire. Today, we're diving into a story bigger than a man, bigger than any one product. Before we begin, if you haven't already, check out our full biography of Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple. His story of being a dropout, a dreamer, and a relentless fighter is unforgettable. You can find it in our channel playlist. But today is different. Today, we're telling the story of a company that was laughed at, nearly destroyed, reborn, and eventually became the most valuable brand in the world. This is the story of Apple Inc., not just Steve Jobs, not just Steve Wozniak, the quiet genius, not just Tim Cook, the operator who guided Apple after Jobs. This is the story of all the unsung heroes, the dreamers, and the rebels who built Apple from a tiny garage into a $3 trillion empire. And here's the best part. This video is also a powerful English learning tool. We use simple sentences, emotional storytelling, and vocabulary you can understand and use to improve your fluency. So grab a notebook, pay attention, and let's begin. In 1976, in Altos, California, 21-year-old Steve Jobs convinced his friend Steve Wozniak to help him build a computer. Jobs was not an engineer. He was a visionary, a salesman, obsessed with design and simplicity. Wozniak was a genius engineer, shy, quiet, and incredibly talented. They were opposites, but together they would create something the world had never seen. They didn't have an office. They didn't have money. They didn't even have a company, but they had a garage, Jobs' parents' garage, and an idea: make a computer anyone could use. Wozniak built the first Apple computer, the Apple I. No screen, no keyboard, no plastic casing, just a simple motherboard, but it worked. Jobs, the salesman, went to the Byte Shop, a local computer store, and said, "We'll sell you 50 computers, pay $500 each, delivery in 30 days. The problem? They had no money, no parts, and no factory. Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, borrowed money, and convinced suppliers to give parts on credit. Together with Wozniak and a few helpers, they hand-built Apple I computers in the garage. The result? Over 200 computers sold. Not bad for two kids in a garage. Why the name Apple? Jobs chose it because 1. It sounded friendly. 2. It came before Atari in the phone book. 3. He was on a fruitarian diet. And so, Apple Computer Inc. was officially born on April 1st, 1976. No joke, this was the start of a company that would change the world.
While the Apple I succeeded, it was just the start. Wozniak created the Apple II, a complete computer with color display, keyboard, plastic casing, and easy usability. At a computer show, investors weren't just impressed by the technology, they were blown away by the design. Jobs focused on simplicity and beauty, unlike the bulky, ugly machines from other companies. In 1977, Apple II launched. It became the first mass-produced personal computer in the world. Year 1, $770,000 in sales. Year 2, $7 million. By 1980, $117 million in annual revenue. On December 12, 1980, Apple went public, instantly valued at $1.2 billion. Employees became millionaires overnight. Jobs, at just 25, became a multimillionaire, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted to make the greatest computer in the world. At that time, IBM was king. Jobs saw Apple as the young rebel, fighting for freedom, design, and the future. By 1981, Apple had hundreds of employees, millions in revenue, and growing fame. But success brought problems. Teams clashed. Engineers wanted stability. Jobs wanted perfection, beauty, and revolution. He pushed everyone to their limits. This is garbage. You can do better. Some admired him. Others quit. Jobs wanted more. He visited Xerox PARC and saw a prototype, a computer with a graphical user interface, icons, and a mouse. He realized the future was visual, simple, and intuitive. This inspired the Macintosh project. Jobs told his small team, "You are not just engineers, you are artists. You are revolutionaries." They worked crazy hours to create the Macintosh, compact, easy to use, and revolutionary. Apple partnered with ad agency Chiat Day. The famous 1984 Super Bowl ad, directed by Ridley Scott, depicted a dystopian world destroyed by a hammer-wielding woman. On January 24, 1984, Jobs introduced Macintosh on stage. "Hello, I'm Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag." Sales 70,000 units in 4 months. But problems emerged. Expensive, limited memory, and businesses resisted. IBM dominated. Microsoft's Windows threatened Apple. Jobs clashed with CEO John Sculley. In 1985, Jobs was removed from the Macintosh division and resigned at age 30. Apple had lost its soul.
Apple floundered. Macintosh 2, Newton, Power Macintosh, all underwhelmed. Competitors like Microsoft, Dell, and HP dominated. By 1996, Apple stock was under $7, losing $1 billion per year. Jobs, meanwhile, founded Next and bought Pixar. Next Step, their OS, was ahead of its time, stable, beautiful, and intuitive. Apple, desperate for a new OS, acquired Next in 1997 for $429 million. Jobs returned. He found chaos, dozens of models, confusing products. His solution? A simple 2x2 grid. Consumer desktop, consumer laptop, professional desktop, professional laptop. Focus, simplicity, perfection. With designer Johnny Ive, Jobs launched the iMac in 1998. Transparent, colorful, all-in-one, revolutionary. Sold 800,000 units in 5 months. Revenue over $1 billion. Jobs cut unnecessary products, refocused design, and simplified Apple's identity. The company became profitable again by 1999. Stock rose from $7 to $99. Apple now had a passionate fan base, a clear vision, and Jobs' legendary focus on user experience. The world's music experience was messy. CDs, illegal downloads, ugly MP3 players. Jobs said, "Let's make a music player simple, elegant, and magical." October 2001, iPod launched. 5 gigabytes, 1,000 songs, white, clean, click wheel. Apple sold 125,000 units in the first months. 2003, iTunes for Windows. Sales exploded. 2001, $5.4 billion revenue. 2006, $19 billion revenue. Apple became a cultural movement, selling emotion, not just products. Mobile phones were ugly and confusing. Jobs said, "We can do better." A secret team worked in the Purple Dorm. They built a touchscreen phone with music, internet, email, apps, calls, all in a sleek device. January 9, 2007, Jobs introduced iPhone, 1 device, 3 functions. First weekend, 270,000 units sold. End of 2007, 1.39 million units. Market cap crossed $100 billion. 2008, App Store launched, creating a new digital economy. Apple became a consumer electronics superpower.
2010, iPad launched. First 80 days, 3 million units. End of year, 15 million units. Revenue, $9 billion in 9 months. Apple was leading innovation, not following it. Jobs' philosophy? Real artists ship. He focused on simplicity, perfection, magic. By 2011, Apple was unstoppable. iPhone sales, 72 million. iPad sales, 32 million. Revenue, 108 billion. Net profit, 25 billion. Jobs, battling cancer, resigned on August 24, 2011. Tim Cook became CEO. Jobs passed away October 5, 2011, leaving a blueprint for excellence, simplicity, and innovation. Under Tim Cook, Apple became global, inclusive, sustainable, and financially powerful. Products like the Apple Watch, AirPods, and M1 MacBooks redefined technology. In 2023, Apple crossed $3 trillion market value, more than Tesla, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Nike combined. Apple is no longer just a company, it's a lifestyle. iPhones, Apple Watch, AirPods, MacBooks, Apple TV, Apple Pay, and iCloud. 1. Simplicity wins. 2. Consistency builds trust. 3. Emotion beats features. 4. Kill old products boldly. 5. Focus on one thing perfectly. 6. Control the entire experience. 7. Protect your brand. 8. Start small, dream big, deliver boldly. Apple proves you can start in a garage, rise from failure, and change the world. To dreamers watching, one idea, courage, and belief can change everything. The most powerful thing Apple ever created, belief. Belief in ideas, design, and people like you. Never stop believing, never stop dreaming, and never stop learning. If this story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe to Daily English. Hit the bell icon and join us for more stories that teach English and transform your life.